Vomitorium. There was actually a belief, amongst many, that ancient Romans had a place called the Vomitorium. It was a place where they would go and vomit to get their food out of their stomachs solely so that they could eat more. The good news is that this is not a real thing. In truth, the vomitorium is an architectural term used to describe the passageway or corridor of an amphitheater.
Okay, so you are partially correct and partially wrong with this one, in the sense that you are right that there wasn't a specific location called vomitorium which people used to go and throw up and vomit their food after they had eaten. So you're absolutely correct. This is a misnomer, is a wrong interpretation of that word. But the fact that some Romans, particularly the wealthy one, did do this is mentioned in the sources, so that one isn't a myth. Let's read it. Seneca tells us, they bring together from all regions everything known or unknown to tempt their fastidious palate. Food which their stomach, worn out with delicacies, can scarcely retain, is brought from the most distant ocean. They vomit that they may eat, and eat that they may vomit, and do not even deign to digest the banquets which they ransack the globe to obtain. So, in the sources by other Romans, they do mention this practice, but it's considered a form of debauchery. In Suetonius we read, he's speaking about Claudius, hardly ever left the dining room until he was stuffed and soaked. Then he went to sleep at once, lying on his back with his mouth open, and a feather was put down his throat to relieve his stomach. Suetonius, as he speaks about Vitellius, says, he divided his feast into 3, sometimes into 4 a day, breakfast, luncheon, dinner, and a drinking bout, and he was readily able to do justice to all of them through his habit of taking emetics. Not a myth.
Lead paste. One of the more dangerous things they did was going to certain lengths to make sure that their skin appeared to be pale or to give it a rose look. And to get that effect, they would put paste on their faces. But not just any paste, a lead paste. That's right, lead poisoning.
The fact that some Roman women used products based on, sometimes, white lead in their cosmetics is mentioned by Ovidius, Pliny and Martial. However, when you say that they are ignorant of the possible dangers of this is absolutely false, because when we read the authors, not only they are fully aware of the toxicity of white lead in their cosmetics, but they even call it a mortal poison. It's in the sources. Pliny calls this a mortal poison. Ovidius calls it poisonous compounds. And this is further proved by the fact that we have someone like Plautus that instead tells us that in order to avoid the toxicity of these sort of elements or ingredients, alternative healthy cosmetics were in fact used, particularly to create this little blush in the cheeks of Roman women that were based on different ingredients that did not involve lead. Not to mention, if that's one of the reasons why you wouldn't want to go and live in ancient Rome, then you should also not want to go and live in 17th century England, since white lead-based cosmetics were still in use there.
Yes, there are many who even speculate that the elite using this lead paste, as they did, were once one of the key downfalls of the empire, because so many of the elite kept becoming poisoned by their own hands.
The reason why I decided to talk about this is because it's also connected to a larger sort of myth that has been propagated in the 80s by the likes of Jerome Riago, who is a chemist, and he was speaking about this idea of lead poisoning in ancient Rome, not only in connection to cosmetics, but also in connection to their lead piping and water infrastructure and aqueduct, going as far as saying that that's the reason why the Roman Empire fell, because they were all poisoned by lead. But these theories have been debunked and approached and addressed already by these specific classicists, who are not only experts and historians, but also have a very solid medical background. And since we mentioned the aqueducts, once again, if we read Pliny, we see that he knows that the lead-based aqueducts were unhealthy for you, because he's saying that they use the same white compound and powder to make white marble, and therefore it's probably not good for your body, and he pushes the idea of using terracotta instead. So yes, they are very aware.
Medical treatments.